Welcome to another episode of Life Stories with Marty. I'm Marty in Melbourne here, and welcome to our listeners all over the world. And I have my colleague and friend up in Sydney, and we have a very special guest today. And I'm going to pass it over to Michael. Michael, who is joining us today?
Thank you, Marty. And it's Michael Lyons up here in Sydney. And Life Stories with Marty has been a very popular segment of our broadcasts. And we've had some very special people on over the years, but no more special than my good friend, Patrick Brady. Hello, Patrick.
How are you doing, Mike? Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Good to be on with you guys.
Yeah, now, Patrick is a singer, songwriter, and a recording star. He arrived in Australia around 2088, I believe.
1988.
1988. Yeah. I'm going forward now. And just to say, you're a married man. You're married to Margaret,
Yeah.
And you've got children.
5.
You've got 5 children, and the fantastic children.
Yes.
You never jump bail or anything.
Not as yet.
Anyway,
Not as yet.
But Patrick, let's go back to the beginning then. I know you played music here. You're every day. You're gigging, as they say. So you're very popular in Sydney. In your younger days, now you're born in Dublin. Tell us about your younger life. We'll say briefly in Dublin. You went to the school and high school. Just
Okay. So I was born. My parents are from Cavan. Moved to Dublin when they were getting married around that time. I was born, I don't know, a year later or whatever. And then followed, I'm the eldest of 5. So we were in a very small house. And when the rest of my siblings were born, the house was a bit cramped. So they sent me down to my granny in Cavan, my granny and grandfather. That's my dad's parents. So I was brought up by my granny, grandfather, and Aunt Rose. And I have very fond memories of that time in my life, growing up in the country, heart of the countryside in Cavan. There was a river nearby. I used to fish in that, and this was before I went to school. But then when it was time for me to go to school, I moved back up to Dublin and started going to school.
So did you go back with your family again then?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't actually unusual back then for a family member to go and live with the grandparents or something. It happened.
I think
it's probably because of the room factor. The fact
that
a lot of them had 12 kids, but my grandmother had 15. So I don't know where they all slept. But anyway, it wasn't unusual to do that. So when you went back to Dublin, then were you in the middle of Dublin or outside Dublin?
We were in just off the North Circular Road there in Sheriff
Street.
Yeah, Sheriff Street. Yes.
Did you like Dublin as a city and all that, or did you come from the country?
Yeah, it was a bit strange coming from the country. I had a Cavan accent at school, which went down great with all the Dublin kids. So we started off there. Then we moved to East Wall Road, and I went to St. Joseph's in East Wall. Then we went to Lawrence O'Toole's, Christian Brothers. Did the primary start there, and then I went to O'Connell Schools, which is up on North Circular Road. Then we moved to Drumcondra, so that was the story of there.
Yeah. So then, did you start? I know you're in the music business, but did you ever have a real job, as they say?
I think I'm fairly unemployable.
But when you left school and all that, when did you start working?
Yeah, I worked briefly as a mail night telephonist in the post office in Exchequer Street in Dublin for a few years. I was in the band at the time, but I was putting this in between gigs and all that. That was great fun, by the way, a great crack altogether. Very fond memories of all the friends I had then. And where else did I work? I worked here and there, but I was always serious about being a musician.
Was there anything happened, or did you see anything that you said, well, I want to be a musician? Was there any person or something happened that you wanted to be a musician, or were you a family musical? Because you've really got a great life as a musician, You're very popular.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, like I was telling you back in Cavan, when they'd have a party, it would always be you know, in those days before television and all that, in fact, there was no electricity, no running water in this cottage where I grew up. They had candlelight and an El Tili lamp. So when it came to get-togethers and all that, everyone just would either do a recitation or somebody would sing a song. And I was, being the young kid, it was always up to me to sing a song. So I've been singing songs in front of people since probably I was about 3. So it's kind of like started there.
Yeah, and
You can blame them.
And in Dublin now, what year in Dublin were you growing up? Tell us, what year was it? After the show band?
The show bands, when I got into the rock band, which was called Cromwell.
Yeah.
The show bands dominated the scene countrywide, and there weren't many bookings that a rock band could get. It wasn't like nowadays.
Yeah.
So it was very, very difficult to get bookings throughout the country. But I was the guy who did the phoning for the band. So I was always, you know, in those days, if you were in a rock band, you either had to go to England to make it or go to America to make it. Like Thin Lizzy went to England, everyone went to somewhere. Nobody stayed at home and made it at home in Ireland. And I thought, surely you can make a living in this country if we just keep at it. So we played in all the big provincial centres like Clonmel, Cashel, Kilkenny, Portlaoise, Galway, everywhere, every big town in Ireland, Ennis, Diamond, Tralee, Killarney, up Donegal, everywhere.
Well, the show bands were dance bands.
Yeah.
People went there to dance, to dance to them.
Yeah.
But were you a dancing band or were you just a show band? Like, were you just stage gigging? What, you weren't a dancing band, were you?
Not a dance band as such.
You weren't like the Royal Show Band? Or...
No. We had various members at various times, but essentially we were a 3-piece. And like we did play fast music that you could dance to. But most of it was our own compositions, which we released on records and all that, which didn't trouble the charts too much. So yeah, but people would, like, we weren't a progressive rock band where the music was kind of would go fast, go slow, and go into different complex rhythms. We were pretty much a full-on 4-in-the-bar rock band.
Well, I see where you played on the same stage as Thin Lizzy. You were the band that preceded them.
We supported them. Yeah.
Well, was that a big occasion for you? Because Thin Lizzy were very much known all over the world. They were a world. So that was a big gig for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Whiskey in the Jar was in the charts for Thin Lizzy at the time.
Yeah.
So they were like huge in the English charts. I mean, so they've been on top of the pops, and they were doing sellout shows up and down, you know, the length and breadth of the UK and in Ireland as well. So, but we also supported them. We supported them in Dublin, Cork, Limerick, and Galway, I think it was. We also supported Rory Gallagher on a couple of occasions at the stadium in Dublin. And let's see, I'm just trying to think of, we supported lots of other acts at big kind of concert venues. And then we did our own thing. But like you're talking about show bands, they played in the ballrooms. We could never get into the ballrooms. No. The ballrooms would not book an act, a kind of a beat group or a...
but the show band era was...
And Pat, can I ask you, who you mentioned the names there, you know, who you played with, and that as you started very young, as you said, it's a 3-year-old. What really inspired you to carry on and find your own? Because I have had the honor of seeing you up on Michael's Day and on Anzac Day playing, and you have that lovely, where do you get that lovely, you kind of bring the crowd with you with your songs. And I noticed that up there. Did you get that? Yeah. Where did you get that from? Your mother? Or...
I don't know. I suppose so, yeah. I suppose at home, Cavan people have a very easygoing, relaxed in a way of doing business. You learn over the years, like it becomes ingrained. And I mean, you obviously have to reach out to an audience and bring them with you. You're not dictating. It's not a kind of a monologue to the audience, you know, here we are, I'm a great musician, listen to this. It's not a recital, it's kind of a get everyone involved. You're just a party and you happen to be the focal point of that party for the time you're on the stage, you know, so you want to include everybody in the room in what's going on. You know, so it improves the general experience of the event, whatever it is, you know.
I think
And because it's life story, just before let Michael go in, can I go back a little bit? You said the Christian Brothers and that. How was your school life? Give us a little bit about your life growing up.
School. I didn't mind school, and the brothers were tough, and the lay teachers who worked alongside the brothers, they were very tough, and they were fond of doling out slaps if you misspelled Irish words or didn't know your Latin or something like that. But other than that, it was okay. And as I got a bit older, you know, discovering literature and Irish literature, you know, poetry, Shakespeare, all that's all very, very interesting. And history is very interesting too, you know, the entire Irish history. We got a very great education in Irish history, like at school, like going all the way back to Finn McCool and the Fianna and everything right up to kind of more or less, well, the Easter Rising or whatever. And then world history too. So that's interesting. There's no one cannot be interested in that. Like nowadays there are TV channels devoted primarily exclusively to history and to stuff like that.
To bring it back to the Marty asked you about why you're successful, I think there's an innateness in Irish culture.
Yeah.
For people to gravitate to. And I'm not saying that we're control the world, but we are popular because of the way we can communicate with people in a very easy way.
Yeah.
And sometimes even the music mightn't be that good. Like there was 900 show bands in Ireland at the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes the music wasn't that good, but people would, because the personalities, they might go, or then some people might go because of the music.
Yeah.
So, but to ask you, I think it's a great question, because I think, and I've observed it, other people, like we had a theatre group here. I was the president of it, and we did a lot of Fields plays and the Kerry man, J.B. Keane. And the ABC one I came to a play we had on, it was called Freedom of the City by Brian Friel at Bondi Pavilion Theatre. And we had about 300 people there. That doesn't fit anymore. And the ABC came along and they said to me, I was the president, said, where do you get your actors from? I said, they're my friends. I said, they're not professional.
Yeah.
He said, geez, he said, it proves one thing, that only Irish actors can really do Irish parts. You know, he's saying, you can't kind of make it up. But some can, maybe, I don't know. But that was his attitude. He said, this is unbelievable that you got these amateurs on stage and the way they can present themselves.
100%, Michael. Just look at the commitments for a start.
Yeah.
The movie back then speaks. Comparing.
I think we're kind of Irish people are kind of inclusive.
Yeah.
Like in every country in the world that I've ever been, I'll meet Irish people. And they're always the people who muck in with the locals, muck in with the natives, help people out. They don't sit on their high horse and kind of dictate. You know, if there's a well needs to be dug, they'll go down and dig it. You know, that kind of thing, or they'll help them dig it.
Well, now, Patrick, that's a good segue, as you said, to my next question. You're talking about around the world. You went to the Emirates, the Middle East.
Yeah.
And how many years were you there?
I was on and off there for about 15 years.
And you're living in Australia?
Well, living at home first in Ireland.
Okay.
And then subsequently here.
But why did you go to what took you to the Middle East?
Well, so after the band finished, I continued working with my songwriting partner, Michael Keeley. Derek Dawson was the drummer of the band, great guy. Then continued with Michael Keeley. And we were playing in a small pub in Dublin, the Suffolk House, one night in Suffolk Street. And an Italian impresario walked in by the name of Piero Mazzari, lovely man, very large man with a cigar the length of like the leg of a chair. And he liked what he heard, and he said, how would you like to go to Dubai? And this was back in the 70s. And I kind of hadn't heard of, I don't know what Dubai, where is it? Never heard of it. He said, great place, great hotels. And we said, yeah, sure, let's go. And we went, and next thing we're in the Hilton Hotel in Dubai. We had a very successful time there. We wrote a song called Life in the Emirates, which became a big popular hit in the United Arab Emirates. Yeah. And even school children at school in there learn it because it mentions the name of the 7 Emirates. So if you want to learn the name of the 7 United Arab Emirates, learn that song. So it became a real big hit, and we were very popular there, and we continued going back as a duo. And then Michael went his separate ways, and I continued going back there.
No, today the Emirates have got a little bit more progressive, and things are not as controlled as I would think back in your day, you know, the way you dress and alcohol and all that. What people, who was your audience then? Because they don't drink alcohol. And they don't have to go out.
That's a good question, yeah.
Listen to gigs.
Well, the funny thing is, in the Emirates is different from Saudi Arabia, and other Kuwait, for instance, which are fairly strict Islamic rule applies. In the Emirates, it's always been fairly relaxed in the sense that, sure, the local Muslims do live according to their faith, and they are very good. Like, it's a great place to be, because I remember thinking Dubai was kind of like, it was like Ireland back in the 1950s, in the sense that you could leave your wallet on the front seat of a car and nobody would touch it. You could leave anything, girls would leave their handbag in a taxi. The taxi driver would bring it back or bring it to the local police station. They'd get it back. Nothing would be touched. It was very, very pure.
It's like my granddad. They never locked the front door. In the country.
Yeah, it was like that. But the answer to the question about who was the audience, there was a large audience, a large group of expatriates, American oil workers, Canadians, Irish, of course, Scottish, English, Germans, people constructing everything, working on the oil rigs, working in every line. You know, it was starting to boom at the just beginning. Right. The beginning of the boom was there. There was an English language newspaper. There were lots of 3 or 4 5-star hotels in Dubai.
So there was no controlling of drinking in the hotel, alcohol.
You could drink alcohol within the hotel.
Within the hotel, that was about it.
Yeah.
So then, just moving on then, when you came to Australia in 1988, why did you come to Australia?
Because
you had 2 children with you as well.
Yeah, I got married to Margaret, my lovely wife.
Hello, Margaret.
Hello, Margaret.
And we got married, and we had one eldest girl, 18, and then we had another girl, Orla. And I felt that when children, like the life as an expatriate, from working out of Ireland was, you do 3 months and 6 months maybe in Dubai, then you go to Abu Dhabi for another few months, go to Bahrain, go to Cairo, go to Nairobi, go to Yemen. Like, I've been in Damascus, lots of these countries. So I felt you couldn't be dragging the children around, especially when they started going to school. So I thought Australia was a good base. They could go to school here, and I could work here because there was a good music scene in Sydney at the time. Well, there still is, but in those days, lots of people will argue that the pub music scene and the general live music scene was better back then in the 80s.
Oh,
than it is now.
absolutely. So did you, we'll talk about your Australia. So when you came to Australia, did you still go back to Middle East to do gigs?
Yeah,
You did.
yeah.
So you
Not for a long time because I joined the Irish Drovers
Irish jobs, yeah.
and I was with them for, I don't know, on and off about 10
So
years.
let's talk
Yeah.
about the Irish Drovers, because
Okay.
the Irish Drovers were the most successful group, I'd say, in Australia that people knew about. Not the Irish Rovers, which are a Canadian group. And
Yeah,
people often confuse them with the Irish Rovers. It was the Irish Drovers
yeah,
with Miles Mooney and Sean Gilroy, God
Yeah.
rest his soul,
yeah.
and you, Michael Durkin, Matty
Matt
Matt
Cohn
Cohn,
and Jimmy Carroll
Stephen Carroll.
was in it.
Yeah, you were a great, massive, and you used to play at the Henry IX Bar in Sydney.
Yeah.
And for the longest, they went for a night, one night, and you lasted about, you were there for
Oh,
years.
donkey's ears, yeah.
Even people who come back from America and say, we're going to see the Drovers are still playing at the Hilton. So that was a great period. So when you hit Sydney with Margaret and your two children, then your family group,
Yeah.
did you go immediately into the music scene, or did you get a job?
No, I didn't really get a job.
People say that. Have you got a real job?
Like, I've never really had much of a real job.
What did Margaret say about that?
I tried working as a postman very briefly, and I'd be doing gigs the night before and getting in at 2 a.m. and getting up at 5 a.m. to go out and start post the next day in Mortdale. So I gave it up after about 2 or 3 weeks.
So
It was
in
just too hard.
1988, did you Miles, was the Drovers were going then? Were they going?
Yeah, they
Drovers
were. Yeah, they were already a very established
Yeah.
band by the time.
But where did you start first gigging? Probably the Gaelic Club, not?
No, my first gig with the Drovers was in the Henry IX bar.
Oh,
in the
but
Hilton.
you didn't go by yourself before that?
In the Henry IX, no.
No, you
Oh, by himself doing gigs.
well,
Yeah,
after 1988 when you came here.
yeah. Well, actually, okay. So when I came here first, I don't know how many Australian people are around, but Colin Green, who is the husband of Shaylee Wild,
Yeah.
he actually got me my first gigs in pubs.
Mm.
They had an agency at the time. I think it was Classic Promotions or
Yeah.
Class Promotions. And they got me gigs in pubs in Sydney around various places. And that was going really well, Balmain and all of the inner city kind of places. One night, actually, they got me a gig in Surrey Hills in a lesbian bar, a female gay bar, and like I was the only male in the whole bar.
Did you have to wear a dress?
No, I went as I am, and the girls had a great night. It was a brilliant night. Like they were up on the counter dancing and.
So what type
everything.
of music would you play for them for lesbians now?
I played like
Irish,
some Irish songs and mixed with like the Beatles and anything that was going at the time, kind of popular stuff, just keep the party going, so yeah, it was great. And then one day I was sitting at home, lived in Mortdale at the time, and Sean Gilroy, who was the violin player with the Irish Drovers and a real gentleman, he phoned me out of the blue and said, "How would you like to join the band?" I said, "Sounds good," and all that, because I knew of them and they were a very established band.
Yeah.
So I went up to Miles Mooney's house and we sat down around a table, and Matt Tone was there, Miles and Sean, and we just sang a few songs to each other, had a bit of a practice, and we got on great from day one, and that was it.
Yeah.
You're in.
Yeah, well, and I would like to say hello to Miles Mooney.
Yeah,
Miles is not real well at the moment.
Don't mind him, he's great. Miles is fantastic.
He was a great leader then of the band. He went to Canada and toured in many places. They went home through Moscow one time.
Yeah.
Didn't they? What was story was that?
Sean and Miles, one time, this was before I joined the band, but I know the story. They got a train from I think it was Vladivostok in the east of the then Soviet Union, and trained it all the way across Siberia and to Moscow, and then all the way to, I don't know, through the Ukraine, to East Berlin or whatever, and then they then went on the Western European transport. So they got a train all across the Soviet Union. There's two routes you can go. You can go through the Tashkent and the more southern republics, which would be Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, all those ones. But they went through the northern route, which was more, I don't know, kind of a snow-covered route. They ended up in Moscow anyway, and they played
in
got out in
Square.
Red Square, and yeah, Sean got his green fiddle,
He had a
and
green
Miles on
fiddle,
the guitar.
and you're playing away into it.
Yeah.
And people were started to gather around, because music is a very uniting art. You know,
Yeah.
people hear music, and
Yeah,
it could have reminded me even of something in Russian. It doesn't matter. They accumulate. People thought that they were booked to play or something, but I
Yeah.
don't think playing in the square in Moscow was a done thing.
I don't think it was an actual official booking.
I don't think that would have gone down
The
too
posters
well.
of Sean Gilroy coming soon.
But Pat, when you were playing back in the bands and that, so I mean, I came to Australia in 1992.
Yeah,
Had a hotel here, had it for many years, and a lot of guys that you know, they played in. It was in Irish English. A lot of the guys played in the band, but they absolutely loved it. But they're, what would I say is, musicians. They're a different breed. They're so creative. And you know, like I used to love the ones we used to have on Thursday nights and Monday nights. We had them coming in after writing their own songs. And I know you've done that.
yeah.
Could you tell us any stories that anyone that through your bands that you recall some incidents that was important to you?
Oh, jeez, you should have prepared me for this.
I got
because
you on
look-
that one, didn't I?
Yeah, because there's so many that you kind of, well, see, okay, so you're saying musicians are peculiar or particular or whatever. I think what's peculiar to perhaps from where you're sitting is, to me, that's the way life is. That's normal. So you got to get used to doing things. I remember there were a couple of times to stand out. One was, well, before I came to Australia, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned it was in Nairobi, playing, and with Michael Keeley, my partner at the time, songwriting partner.
Yeah, and I'm sorry there. I said peculiar. I meant peculiar. They live peculiar lives. I didn't mean I've got a lot of friends and bands. So just to correct that error there, as I was listening. No, very normal. Probably, as you said, more normal. Yes.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. So one Christmas day in Nairobi, we heard that there was a group of Irish nuns working out in the bush with orphans and in poor African villages. They'd set up a school, and they were feeding people and generally doing very good work in a community out in Nairobi, a few hours out in Nairobi, in Kenya, by the way, Nairobi in Kenya. So Christmas Day, we thought, come on, we'll go out to them. So we got someone to drive us out in an L Land Rover, and we arrived out in this very small settlement, like literally in the middle of the African bush. And in we go, and there are all these Irish nuns, girls from Clare and from Tipperary and Cork and Kildare and you name it, Donegal, anywhere. And we had Christmas dinner with them in the middle of the day, like dinner with the Irish time. We have dinner around 12 o'clock lunchtime. And then we started singing them lots of songs, and they had a hoolie, amazing. Like, they're such good crack, those nuns. They were delighted. We had a great time with them all together.
Did you bring any home with you?
No. Bring nuns home.
So, Patrick, going on, Marty, did you ever do a gig where you died, where the audience just didn't come with you?
Yeah. earlier in the career. You do that
So what
in
do you
the
do
early
then?
part of your career.
Do you?
Yeah.
Just three people listening to each other.
And then they walk out.
So drinking at the bar. And like I remember Christy Moore when we were here.
Yeah.
And he was playing up in Auburn. I was never a great fan of Christy Moore. But he stopped everything. He said, if anyone wants, if you want to drink, get out and drink somewhere else.
Yeah.
So didn't want people drinking and the clicking of the glasses and all that.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose in a way that's, but he didn't do himself any great favors. If you listen, Christy, I'm sorry, but I was there at the time.
Well, I've seen Christy Moore live in concert a couple of times, and I think he's absolutely brilliant.
Yes,
amazingly good.
He has written amazing.
The way one man with a guitar can control the hugest auditorium.
And probably to control, I know there's another comedian I know here in Sydney who, if he went to do a gig, not during lunchtime or after, it'd have to be clicking of plates and knives, not where some guys can get up and they can, the noise doesn't worry him, but he wouldn't. And his name was Brian Doyle, actually.
I know Brian.
You know Brian.
Yeah, he's
he's in a home now, God bless him. But Brian wouldn't. He said, I booked him a few times. He said, if there's clicking in knives and fork, he said, I'm not going to go.
Oh, did he?
Oh, yeah. He went. Yeah. But again, you can understand, especially if you're a comic, you know, you want people to listen to what you're saying. Yeah. Maybe a musician, you can just sing away in the background. You know?
Yeah, you can also turn up or whatever. You know, the
ambience. I see, Pat, you probably would know the group Aslan.
Aslan, yeah.
They were in Melbourne. I was to see them the other night, and we ended up had to go to another concert. But Aslan, they came out here and played at the Kona Hotel in Richmond.
Yeah.
And then one of the managers, they came and stayed at my hotel in Port Melbourne, Molly Bloom's.
Yeah.
And we blocked the whole place off them. They were there drinking till 7 o'clock in the morning and jamming. And I have some of the pictures, one of the best nights ever. But Christy, God rest him.
Yeah.
Christy that passed away. He was on the phone when I rang my mother. It was Irish time from Australia time. Yeah. And he actually spoke to her for 40 minutes. Well, all the guys, but I didn't get a chance to see them, but hopefully get them on the show as well.
Yeah, what a great band.
And lovely people. Billy, a really nice, lovely guy. We got to know them for that weekend. Yeah.
Fabulous. Sounds like you had a good weekend with that.
Well, I've run so many hotels, and even my own, I've hired bands for years. And that's why I really appreciate it. As I said earlier, probably the wrong way, but what bands do, and they do bring the crowd. And also, what I was going to say about you is they've got that sense of humor with people. That's very important, the sense of humor that portrays on the crowd. And when I seen you on Anzac Day, that was absolutely magic. So
thank you
very much. Now we're going to have to finish up the show soon. So
Michael, I think too, Marty, it's when you're playing a one man, that's more difficult, I believe, than if you got a band. You know what I mean? Because when you're just one man and the guitar standing up there, but you can read the audience very well anyway.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to play Irish all the time.
No.
And you got enough in your repertoire to do many other songs. But one man and the guitar, I think, can be frightening.
It can be, but it also gives you great freedom because, as you're saying about reading the audience, if you think, okay, this style of music will go well, or, you know, they'd like this and that, you can change I never have a program. I literally think of what song I'm going to do next, like on the spot, you know, just depending on what will go well now, you know. It's not off a list, and I don't read lyrics off a list. I don't do lists, you know. It's all about, and when you're a one-man band on your own, you can change you can do a 180 degrees turn on a pin, you know, because you think that song didn't go that well, let's try something else, you know. Whereas with a band, you have to get everyone. It's like turning a ship around, you know.
And Patrick, sensitive question.
Yes.
In view of the Irish situation with English, you know, and the rebel part of our past and present.
Yeah.
if you're asked to play rebel songs, would you play rebel songs?
It depends on the song, and like I'm not anti-English, and I don't agree with people being anti-English. They are our biggest neighbor. We've been at peace with them for a long, long time now. I'm talking about the Republic of Ireland has at least. Yeah, so I don't like songs that expose violence, basically. So, we don't need that. You can make your point that I'm proud to be Irish, without going down that road.
Like come out with black and tans and all that. That would you prefer not?
See,
now, guys, we have to wrap it up here. We're going on. We got to wrap it up, but let Michael finish off. But Pat, can you tell us what message would you like to send about your music? And we are going to put on at the end of this show. We will be playing your. Tell us what the song is we're going to be playing.
I'm not sure because I haven't I haven't thought about it really.
That was the answer I was looking for, because we started at the start. We'll put the whole album up, but we'll pick a song which is appropriate, and people can listen and follow you, Pat. And I must say, listening to you live, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much.
And I really thank you, and thank you for coming on the show. Michael, over to you to close.
Can I just quickly?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry,
please.
Just mention that we've kind of glossed over this, but one of the times that I was in Damascus, I met and used to habitually meet the soldiers from the Irish soldiers from the UN who were there with UNIFIL on the Golan Heights. And they were fantastic guys. And I don't know if any of them will see this. Maybe they will, because
well, they will, because it goes on all the Irish Army sites as well.
Oh, great! Yeah, so the Irish UNIFIL troops on the Golan Heights in Damascus. And we had many's the good night there, including a St. Patrick's night with the boys, with the men from the UN. Yeah, they were super guys.
Oh, that's a great shout out. Thank you, Pat.
Good on you.
I know they'll appreciate
they lost a couple of troops too and that time. But well, I'll finish by just saying the fact that Marty is getting us to go that we run out of time is just a testament to you. That the fact that you keep talking to you all bloody day long.
Yeah.
Whereas some people you kind of run out. Pat, you're a lovely man. You've been a friend of mine for, we'll say 35 years.
Thanks, man.
And I hope our friendship continues on. I don't get to your gigs anymore, but I wish you well. You're everywhere. I can see you everywhere.
Yeah.
On Facebook, Pat's got his own Facebook site.
Oh, yeah.
So if people wanted to go onto that, you'll know in Sydney, anywhere around Sydney, where he's playing and all that. But yeah, you're a nice human being, as they say.
Thank you very much.
And you and your family, and all I can say is thank you, Marty, for joining us today on Marty's life stories.
Well, I'd like to return the compliment, Michael. You're a decent man. You've worked very hard within the Irish community and been very successful. And it's all credit to you for doing what you continually do, and to Marty as well. Like
and thank you, Pat. And I'd all like to say to our listeners that with Michael is fighting his own battle through cancer. But he's always an inspiration to all of us, as you said. And Pat, it's just been an honor to have you on. We'll send all the links. You listen to more on Pat, and Michael has these stories as well. So for tonight, good night, guys. Thank you, Pat.
Good day.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. See you next time.
To listen to all the podcasts, please go to moralentryinternational.com.